Hello and welcome back to Voided Vanguard. So this time I'm going to again talk more about a honorable mention, but this is also another one of those cases where the deck itself got a good amount of support, but it went in a different direction than the original. Although for this specific subclan, I don't personally mind it. I just figured that it could go a little bit further. And this is going to be Beast Deities from Nova Grappler. So it's simply the same kind of thing of Nova Grapplers. You want to restand your Vanguard and Rearguard multiple times. However, this is one of those cases where it also had a reverse unit, and I will point you back to the first episode that I made of Bad Future, which talks specifically about the cards I made supporting Ethics Buster Reverse. So I'm going to take from that one specifically Persevering Arena and Roaring. So that was Persevering Arena, No Rest, and then Roaring Spear, Beast Deity, Illuminal Immense. So those are the cards that were originally I placed in that video. So if you want names on them, please check that video out. But for this one, I actually made a separate list of things that I wanted to create. And this one was more along the idea of getting restands, getting effects based on those restands. So let's go on into it. Specifically, I'm going to start with the Stride, which is Ultimate Beast Deity Azure Dragon Waterfall. So this is Waterfall taking a very different direction from Illuminal. So it's a Stride. It has a continuous Generation Break 3 effect. Whenever your rearguard attacks, that unit gets plus 5k and a crit for that battle. So once again, this is not a once per turn ability. This is not a once per rearguard ability. This is basically saying that you're just pushing for more per battle and hopefully doing a little bit more damage. And then its once per turn act ability is you Counterblast and Soul Blast 1 and then turn a card from your face down G-zone face up. So on attack of a Vanguard, you can pay the cost. If you do, choose a number of rearguards equal to the number of face-up cards in your G-zone and restand them. And then if all of the units that you restood have Beast Deity in their name, this unit gets plus 3,000 power for every unit that you stood, as well as an additional drive check. So it's a quad drive, and at maximum, if you're running regular Beast Deities, no markers, you're getting a maximum of 15k power, which is no small feat. And then if you're doing Excel markers, it's possible to do 20, 25, maybe even 30 if you have gotten that far. If you stood 5 or more units through this effect, after that battle, restand this unit and it minuses 3 drive. So it's another card. Again, we're focusing on restanding. We're also giving it a little bit of a debuff. So specifically, it's going to be one of those cases where if you stood 4 or less rearguards, you still get the effect of standing, but you're attacking for no drive. I have seen this on multiple cases of either Vanguards or Strides where they minus enough drive to make it so that they don't actually do anything more with it. Then we have the G-Guard. So this is Shining Armor Beast Deity Prominence Falcon, basing it off of Solar Falcon. For every attack, its auto is when it's placed on the Guardian Circle, it gains 5,000 shield for every time your opponent has attacked. So this is an anti-multi-hit G-Guard. So against regular decks that may be using only 1 or 2 attacks, it's not as valuable. It's only going to get 5 or 10k shield. But in the case of facing off against a Nova Grappler or Murakumo, perhaps even a Aquaforce deck, this can easily go into the 50k shield, 60k shield possibilities. And then if the attack count is 10 or higher, very, very unlikely, I would actually probably say 7 or higher, you can put 2 of your rearguards with Beast Deity in their names into your soul, as opposed to paying the cost. So this is again saying that I'm putting more stuff into my soul, and in exchange, I'm getting a different cost for my G-Guard. I've always valued the ability to pay a G-Guard's cost without having to discard a heal or have an alternate cost. I also took a look and saw that Hilarity Destroyer, which is a card that they released in the very first series of or no, not the very first, but maybe it's either the BT6 for Ezel's original release or the Break Ride era of BT 10, 11, 12. So Beast Deity Comedy Destroyer, a grade 1, as a Generation Break 1. When this unit stands during the battle phase, it can attack from the back row. So it's adding another attacker. It works well with the Azure Dragon to buff its attack, power, and critical. It's just a basic unit with a GB1 skill. And then we will move on to the grade 2. So a V version of Hatred Chaos. So this is another card this is actually specifically V support, where a auto skill of its rearguard, when it restands, if it's on an extra rearguard circle, you counterblast 1, and then it gets, when this unit attacks, stand another rearguard until the end of turn. So this is going to go along with Excel circles. You're going to place it on an Excel marker. You're going to it's going to allow you to restand multiple times. Again, I'm also creating these cards to kind of verse each other. So this is a card that you definitely don't want to see Prominence Falcon in their G zone with. But it also has a GB2 skill where you Soul Blast a Beast Deity, and when it's placed on an additional rearguard circle, if you pay the cost, if you do, it drive checks during its first battle. So this may seem like a weird choice, but I am seeing a possibility of more attacks. I am actually also going to note that if it checks any triggers, must be applied to other units. Recently, we had for the ban list the inability to stand a unit, or I think it's what it is if you stand a unit that's a rearguard that's drive checking, it immediately loses any ability to drive check, or I think it's either that or you can't stand a drive checking unit. I really don't. Again, I'm basing this all off of memory, so if someone wants to mention it in the comments, kindly or harshly, please feel free. But again, this is just my series. I'm enjoying making these things. I've always enjoyed creating things. So that's it for this episode. It's a little bit shorter because I really couldn't think of anything that I could create outside of it. I don't believe that the deck really needs a grade 3 Strider. I think it has plenty of power as is. It's gotten plenty of support. Most of those grade 3s were just specific. The grade 3s that I'm creating for the Stride Fodders effect, those are purely for decks that have not had enough support as of recent. Look to my Metalborg or Perdition episodes. You'll notice that I spend a lot of time talking about how they're missing a lot of stuff. But I believe that will... actually, let me create some cards on the spot. I'm thinking for the Stride Fodder, if you have Beast Deity, you stride for 3 instead of 1 for discard cost. And then when this card is discarded, at the end of your turn, if you attacked a certain number of times, return this card either to your hand, place it in Soul, or place it underneath an order on your field. And I would think that a number of attacks might be like 7, 8 maybe would be a good way of doing it. And then a PG would also be something similar, where instead of it would have a lower attack, a specific attack cost, where if you attack 4 times with the same rearguard in a turn, you can return this to your hand for the cost of Soul Blast 3 Beast Deities. Or another way to look at it is that at the end of your turn, you can Soul Blast. It would be Soul Blast 8, return this card to your hand. This ability is reduced by 1 by the number the greatest number of attacks a rearguard made in this turn. So if you attacked 5 times, you'd only pay a 3 Soul Blast cost. If you decided had no rearguards to attack, you would basically say, I'm not returning this to my hand. I can't pay the cost. And I use 8 for the number. I could easily see Soul Blast 5. Because we've actually seen in the original game, we had Mega Blast, which were Soul Blast 8, Counter Blast 5. And these were incredibly I wouldn't say that they were broken skills. They were skills that were broken at the time, but that's going off on a different topic. So this has been Voided Vanguard for non-ethics buster Beast Deity, and thank you for joining me.